rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, it's the end of the week, end of a, I would say fairly eventful week. I mean, we had the debate on Tuesday, which, of course, was, well, yeah, it was what it was. Let's just put it that way. But I've got a couple of things tonight to talk about that kind of center around the debate, and of course the hot topic and hot topics of the day, the last couple of days on the social medias, because of course, once again, we have to expose the leftist lies that are running around out there. Also, too, I have some information as well with regards to inflation and a very first of its kind. And by that, I mean the first time that the Daily Wire has actually released a video or a movie into theaters. And I want to give you a little bit of a preview of that tonight. So we'll get right into it. First of all, of course, I would like to have Definitely Not Karen lead tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mind, please stand. Remove your hats if you're wearing one, such as myself. Place your hand over your hearts and join in with Definitely Not Karen as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And of course, I thank you, Definitely Not Karen, for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to hear your version of the Pledge of Allegiance, sorry, I saw something on the chat that just made me chuckle. If you would like to hear your Pledge of Allegiance played here on the broadcast, you can do so by recording yourself, doing it in your style. And of course, once you do that, you grab that audio file and you email it to me at fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. And for tonight's sponsor, we have, I might as well just go ahead and show you guys that stuff. We have theflagshirt.com. I'm wearing one of their polos tonight, one of their wonderful polos. You can see it here in the bottom corner. If you're watching on video, just a fantastic polo. I wear a lot of their shirts, their polo shirts here on the program. You can go and check it out along with all of their other styles at theflagshirt.com. They've got some patriotic styles for fall. Of course, we're coming around to some of the more colder times of the year for everybody. And so they have hoodies and sweatshirts, zip up, 1/4 zip up sweatshirts and things like that are all in patriotic colors, red, white, and blue, as well as having images of the flag, USA, so on and so forth on them as well. Theflagshirt.com has put together as well some election gear. You can see that right here. And here's some of the elections gear that they have, patriotic outfits for the election. They've put some things together, so you can go and take a look at that and check all of their other styles, men's, women's, kids, patriotic accessories like hats and ties and socks and little flags and things like that you can all put together for your elections party as well, all by going to theflagshirt.com and checking it all out. And by the way, at theflagshirt.com, if you purchase $75 or more of product, they automatically give you free shipping. That's right. At $75 or more of their product, they will give you free shipping. But I understand some people are not going to be able to go and like buy $75 worth of product. You know, these are tough times. And so what I've done is I've provided you now with a fantastic offer of $5 off your order. You can go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online. And get yourself a coupon code that when you enter that at checkout at theflagshirt.com, that'll get you $5 off your order. So go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, get your coupon code, then head over to theflagshirt.com and check out all of their styles and pick up $5 off your order on me. That's theflagshirt.com, and you can get yourself patriotized. All right. So, John Cryer, who everybody knows, he's the actor, probably best known for his acting most recently on, I think, the sitcom 2.5 Men or something like that, alongside Charlie Sheen, and then eventually alongside Ashton Kutcher. And anyway, so what ended up happening is he posted on X, and of course he is a complete leftist lunatic in the Hollywood sphere. It's not quite as bad as Meathead himself, Rob Reiner, but he's up there. And so anyway, he posted this thing because, of course, you know, as you all know, the Haitian thing has gotten the left just all stirred up. They keep talking about how the right is trying to, present racist tones and themes and things like that. And now we're starting to see videos coming out from Springfield, Ohio, with residents saying, oh, no, things are not that bad, even though some of them are that bad. And things are happening, obviously very quickly. But the point here is that I came on and he was saying that, no, all of the Haitians that are there, or at least he said something like this, all of the Haitians that are there, they are legal immigrants. And I responded back that no, they can't be illegal because they have temporary protected status. So therefore they haven't completed the process to get in the country. And I was jumped on by a bunch of leftists who were basically telling me that I was totally wrong. Well, given the fact that I am not as well versed in immigration law and so on and so forth, I decided that I would do what I always do, which is research and figure things out and see, am I really wrong here? And it turns out, nope. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm just not. So here, I just got to show you this. So this comes from a site called the American Immigration Council, and they are a group that deals with immigration statuses. They also deal with the law. They deal with all these other pieces and parts. And I just thought I'd read to you a little bit about the temporary protected status. They actually have a webpage that kind of covers it in a very short and brief and succinct detail. So the first one is the very, very first line. And, the very first paragraph, I should say, where it basically gives you a quick overview of what temporary protected status actually is. And essentially what it is, as you can imagine, it's temporary, okay? It's provided to nationals of certain countries that are experiencing problems such as ongoing armed conflict, environmental disasters, and other extraordinary and temporary conditions. Now, the U.S. has to essentially put these countries onto this status list, and when that country goes onto the status list, people from that country who have been inside the U.S. already, regardless of their status now, keep in mind, this is regardless of whether they're legal, illegal, undocumented, documented, whatever. Makes no difference. They can apply for what's called temporary protected status. So what does this do? Well, all this does is it basically gives them two main things. One is that it prevents them from being deported. That's the primary reason for getting temporary protected status, is to keep you from being deported back to your home country, which is under other than ideal conditions, such as an ongoing armed conflict, environmental disaster, or other extraordinary and temporary conditions. Meaning that it's not going to be safe if we were to kick your ass back out of here. The second thing that it does is, because you're under temporary protected status, which, by the way, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, in this case, Mayorkas, he and he alone is the one that controls how long and what states actually, or I'm sorry, what countries are on this list, and for how long. He and he alone decides the original duration, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months, and whether or not to renew that status when the time comes up and it's going to end. Now, the second thing as a part of this is also has to deal, and I think I may have already said this, but I'm going to say it again, is that you can't, that these people who have if you're an undocumented alien, okay, someone who got here without proper, what's the terminology that they use? A person who hasn't talked to Border Patrol yet, an immigration officer yet, okay? What ends up happening is you can now, if you're under temporary protected status, you can now apply and work here in the U.S. Now, that's it. I mean, that's literally it. It doesn't change any other immigration status that you may have. It doesn't give you a line or an in to become a green card holder or a filing for permanent residency or, permanent status or any of that stuff. Okay. They're not U.S. citizens. When you file and gain temporary protected status, you're basically in equivalency of a refugee who is looking to stay in the U.S. For a extended period of time without having any of these other statuses. Now, that doesn't mean that if you gain protected status, TPS status, you can't go and apply for, say, a green card or something like that. But in order to be on temporary protected status from the get-go, is that you literally don't already have any other status, because if you have a green card, you don't have to worry about being deported. If you have a work permit here, which I think is the same as a green card, I'd have to validate that, but you don't have to worry about being deported. The entire purpose of temporary protected status is that you don't get deported back to your country that's having whatever emergency situation that got that country put on the list is what's going on. That's the key. the people who fall under the temporary protected status are not necessarily legally here in the first place, because they could very well have been on a green card before and then came up to the end of their green card, their country gets temporary protected status, and rather than, like you normally would have to do, go home to your home country and then return later, go to your home country, reapply, and then return later, you may not be able to do that. So you're essentially overstaying your visa or your green card or something like that, and you're stuck here because of the fact that your country is under war or earthquake or, some other kind of environmental disaster, et cetera, et cetera. But the point is that the TPS status, there's no reason to be on it if you're here legally on some other program. And that's the key. So if you're here illegally, undocumented, documented, visa ran out, whatever, you file for temporary protected status to keep your ass here in the U.S. so you don't have to go home and deal with whatever the hell is going on. That's what it's for. That's what it's used for. And this is the part that these leftists don't seem to get. It says right here, sentence number 2, TPS has been a lifeline to hundreds of thousands of individuals already in the United States where a problem in a home country makes their departure or deportation untenable. That's it. That's what it's for. So if you have a visa, and say a student visa, that student visa expires, but your country is temporarily protected status, okay, you will end up with what essentially is you've overstayed your visa. You're no longer legally allowed to be in the country. But because of your TPS, you're able to stay and you're able to work. But you're not legally supposed to be here. You should have gone home. You just can't, because we, being the country that we are, we're not going to send you home to a war-torn country or a country that is, torn up by an environmental disaster. Haiti happens to have had both quite recently. So technically, no, anyone on TPS is not necessarily here legally. Okay. They just aren't. They could be, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are. And it makes it so that you can't, essentially, the main purpose of TPS is to ensure that if you're here or have overstayed your welcome, and we just basically, we can't kick you out. That's what it's for. That's its purpose. You're not a U.S. citizen. You're not going to become a U.S. citizen or anything else. And in fact, down here further, after we go through all of the list of the countries of TPS and so on and so forth, it tells you that it doesn't create a path to permanent residence or citizenship. And in fact, there was even some question on a couple of sites. They were talking about, when the Supreme Court hears this law in 2021, or here's this case, in 2021, that maybe something will change. Well, the fact of the matter is, in June of 2021, the Supreme Court ruled that a TPS recipient who entered the United States without inspection, which basically means you cross the border without going through a port of entry or encountering the Border Patrol or so on and so forth. Okay. So in other words, you're an illegal, you jump the river basically to get here. Okay. They are not eligible to adjust to permanent residence within the United States. So if you're here illegally under TPS, you must, once that TPS runs out, you have to go home. That's how it works. Bonnie is asking if Cuba is on this list. Let's go up and see. It doesn't look like it. So the countries that have TPS availability, at least until 2025, 2026, and so on and so forth, Afghanistan, Burma, Cameroon, El Salvador, Ethiopia, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Yemen. Those are the ones that are currently able to do TPS. I didn't sometimes forget when I'm zoomed in and when I'm not. So anyway, so there you go. So the fact of the matter is that if you're under a TPS, you probably are not supposed to be here in the first place. And you're essentially just trying to get around or trying to avoid having to go back to the country you came from. Now, the thing about it is if you are here illegally and the TPS, you're welcome, Sergeant. And the TPS expires and you're here illegally, the other thing that kicks in too is that you get sent back to your home country to get to get a new visa. All right. And that interview, of course, could potentially trigger bars to re-entry for up to 10 years if you're here as a what they call a person who was entered without inspection, which is the EWI. If you're under EWI status, which is the same thing as, yeah, you jumped the border and we didn't even talk to you. Okay. You didn't enter a port of entry. So in other words, you're here illegally. All right. If you've entered without inspection, you could get kicked out at the end of your TPS and you could get stuck in your home country for 10 years. Now, it's not like all of these people are under TPS orders either. TPS is actually something that has to be applied for. But don't put it past the federal government to go and say, all right, TPS, all of you people on this plane are under TPS. I just need to get your names and we'll go ahead and file all the paperwork for you. Don't put this administration past that kind of a situation. So again, TPS is not necessarily a legal status. It is simply a diversion for legal status. All right. Now, the next item on the list. You remember in the in the debate where David Muir went ahead and said that the FBI crime statistics show that crime is falling. And you'll remember the last couple of nights, or within the last couple of nights, that there were two things that were basically showing the crime statistics where one was going up and the other one was going down. Well, guess what? The one that's going up is the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Statistics. They just released their bulletin to demonstrate all of this. And you know what? Donald Trump was right. Again, here, I hate to do this. No, I don't. I don't hate to do this, but this is so monotonous to try and have to say it over and over and over again and tell these liberal leftist morons, and I'm tired of calling them liberals, but the liberal leftist morons that, nope, sorry, you guys are wrong. So the FBI crime statistics pick up police statistics. This is dealing with criminal victimization as reported by the people. Now, the point of the two separate data collection points is to essentially avoid any kind of quote unquote discrepancies between what the reported crime actually is in terms of the police statistics, because again, criminalization happens all the time. Not everybody reports it to the police. And all the FBI is looking at is what the police departments in roughly 18,000 plus cities actually report to them. Now, let's not even mention the fact that, reporting itself by those agencies has been changed in recent years to where the FBI has made it more of a suggestion rather than a requirement, and that the first year that they implemented this new categorization system that they're dealing with, that reporting by those departments, the number of departments dropped by roughly 30%. Let's just forget all of that. And here in recent years, we have seen that a couple of major cities, for an example, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, just as examples, the major cities are not actually reporting their crime. Because again, it is voluntary, not mandatory. Well, here, this deals with the other side of it. They take samples from people who are reporting that crimes, and they don't necessarily have to be the crimes that are reported to the police, although a good portion of them actually have been. But here's a graph that I wanted to show you guys. So the dark red line here has, and each one of these has a plot point that corresponds to a particular year. And so what happens here is, that they have the total, in this particular case, this is a rate of violent victimization as reported to police in the gray line, and the red line up above that is the ones that they actually collected that may or may not have been reported to police. Okay, now this chart shows a good distance between 1993 all the way up to 2023. But what I want to point out, though, is right here in the lower corner in the 2020 through 2023 range. And if you look at this, you can see it ends at 2023. So if you count back 4 spots, okay, if you count back 4 spots, that's where 2020 was, which was the last time that Donald Trump was in office. Now, if you look at this graph, you can see the red line is actually growing from 2020 to 2021 to 2022 and 2023. So when Donald Trump left in 2020, and keep in mind, okay, 2020 again was the COVID year. You can step back once to 2019 and you can see on the graph that it is slightly lower than even where we are now in 2022 and 2023. So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is that Donald Trump was right. Violent crime in particular, in this particular case, has increased under Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. I'm sorry, and Joe Biden, my bad, versus Donald Trump's years. Now, the gray line, and this is where the discrepancy comes into play. The gray line itself is those that were reported to the police. And as you can see, generally speaking, across the path above that or before that, the crime kind of sort of followed the same bump idea as in the red line. You can kind of see a general pattern that they are pretty, they kind of follow each other a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. But yet, when you look at the 2020 to 2023 line, that has stayed fairly stagnant. It didn't raise up as quickly as the red line did jumping from 2021 to 2022. So there you go. Crime is going up. Reporting doesn't appear to be going up at the same rate. And this is where the left has a big problem, because they sit there and they talk about this and they say, well, yeah, but crime is down. No. Crime is not down. Crime is up. Reporting of crime is down. All right. So before I get to my next debunking or leftist lie, let me go ahead and tell you about this fantastic internet digital radio station. The internet digital radio station, of course, is called TGRN, True Grit Roots Network, and TGRN Blues. TGRN.net is where we are at on the interwebs, and you can come and check us out. You can listen in your browser. You can listen. You can download and listen to our app on your mobile device, or if you already have the Odyssey app, that's AUDACY, the iHeartRadio app, or the Live 365 app, you can find us in one of those three's catalog of digital radio stations and listen to us there. Let me tell you about this overnight program called Night Train. TGRN Blues brings you the Night Train. This is where you will hear extended plays, the long cuts, the song versions that you rarely ever hear on the radio, most of the time due to their length. Your conductor, Ernesto, will guide you along during your journey. Climb aboard, take a seat, and enjoy the Night Train. The Night Train airs weekdays from midnight till 6 a.m. Central Time. And you can go and check that out at tgrn.net, or, as I already told you, all of our outlets that we have, everything out there. TGRN Blues, exclusively on TGRN, True Grit Roots Network, out of Austin, Texas. All right. So the next thing that I want to talk about, another lie, is basically dealing with the whole idea that the Venezuelan gangs aren't taking over hotels. That's not happening. Taking out, no. They're not infiltrating hotels and everything else. Well, they may not be doing it in Aurora, Colorado, or at least the Aurora, Colorado authorities are not admitting to it. But here in Texas, yes, they are. A Texas city shuts down a hotel that was occupied by a Venezuelan gang after 693 phone calls. Yeah, so Texas authorities say they are shutting down a crime-ridden hotel housing the Tren de Aragua gang members and investigating the gang's criminal involvement in other cities. This is El Paso County Attorney Cristina Sanchez filed a lawsuit on August 27th to close the Gateway Hotel on Stanton Street in downtown El Paso, Texas, for multiple code violations, noting 693 police and service calls to the location over the course of the last 2 years. So there you go. We're being infiltrated, folks. We've been infiltrated. This is the type of element that is coming across our border and being allowed to come across our border by none other than Kamala Harris, the border czar herself. That's it. That's who's allowing this to happen. And unfortunately, these people who were here are, they're unfortunately going to be displaced. Anyone who might have always been, might have been there for legitimate purposes. But unfortunately, yeah, it's happening, people. This is happening. Again, the Democrats. Oh, it's not happening, but it's good that it is. Hey, you remember how I was talking last night about the PPI and CPI? We're shifting gears into the economy now. Remember how I was talking to you about the CPI and the PPI kind of thing? Well, the CPI, I told you, went up 0.2% over month over month. So from last, excuse me, from last month's number to August's number. The other one that they were looking at is the PPI, the Producer Price Index, and that number hadn't come in yet. But if you recall, I kind of mentioned that I would have expected the PPI to raise at the same rate, that it wouldn't change much over the CPI. The CPI went up 0.2. Well, here in Breitbart, PPI index, inflation picked up again, Producer Price Index shows. Producer Price Index raised by 2%, or by 0.2%, I should say, not 2%, but 0.2% from a month earlier. Faster than the 0.1% increases that were expected. Now, the previous month, so from 3 months ago to 2 months ago, that reading did get revised down from a 0.1% increase to a flat reading, but this one is at a 0.2%. Now, compared with a year ago, the PPI itself was up 1.7%, which is the smallest increase since February. But the point here is that the point about this whole thing is that this could factor into the Fed's decision as to how many points to lower interest rates, whether it's a 1/4 point or a 1/2 point. I'm guessing a 1/4 point at the most, unless they may decide, and this comes up on the 18th, but they may decide to not actually change interest rates, in which case that would not look good for this administration. But we'll have to see. We'll just have to see what those bankers decide to do. My guess is, and my money would be, if I was to bet on it, my money would be that they'll lower it a 1/4 point. But who am I to say? All right. Next item on the docket is, did you hear that our interest payments on our national debt have now topped $1 trillion. That's right. This is the interest payment on all of the debt that we've been carrying over and over. We've got $35 trillion in debt right now. I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but I know that we're somewhere at like 35-ish. So $35 trillion in debt. We have an interest payment of 1% on top of that. That's due. We are in an untenable situation with this, folks. We not only have now, Sean Parnell, who is part of Battleground Live, he was talking about it today, and he was saying, and this is, I have no reason to doubt his numbers, but he was saying that we take in right now in terms of taxes right around $4.4 trillion. And that our expenditures every year at current spending rates, provided that we don't add anything to it, but at current spending rates, we are looking at $6.1 trillion every year being spent by government. That is a shortfall of roughly around 1.5, 1.6 trillion. I mean, just very quick math. And you're looking at, that's a short budget shortfall. So what we're going to have to do in order to stop that is keep spending where it is and increase tax revenues. Not increase taxes, but increase tax revenues. Now, reportedly, Donald Trump's plan of everything that he's been doing, he's ran it by some economists. Donald Trump's plan is basically going to potentially, within 5 years, bring our our revenues up to our expenditures. So if we can just stop the government from spending any more than what they already are doing for the next 5 years, we potentially could get to what is essentially a balanced budget. Unfortunately, that's the problem. We won't be, if we just balance the budget, we still have to deal with all of this debt. So the only way to get rid of the debt and pay down the debt is to have a budget surplus. We haven't had a budget surplus since the Clinton years. And we need to make sure, and this is part of the reason why Donald Trump is talking about things like Elon Musk and the efficiency scenario. Okay? We need to cut back taxes in order to increase revenue, because that happens every single time you cut taxes, you increase revenue, because the economy starts loosening up and getting things going. The same thing, we need to cut back on regulations. We need to cut back on government spending. If we can do all of those things, we can eventually dig ourselves out of debt, but it's going to take quite some time to do this. We're not going to be able to go beyond or live beyond our means anymore. We're not going to be able to keep borrowing, which is unfortunately what the government can do, is they keep borrowing money. And this is part of the problem. The reason why they keep borrowing money is because they keep having a budget shortfall every single year. So, and as Coco Dominki points out over here about sending more money to Ukraine, yeah, we can't do that anymore either. We're going to have to decide it's us or our foreign goals, which we really don't have a foreign goal in Ukraine, at least not anymore, which, by the way, I saw an article. I didn't bring it up, or I didn't put it in the show, maybe not necessarily on purpose, because to be honest with you, it doesn't really surprise anybody. But apparently the U.S. had the opportunity with Ukraine and Russia at the table. Russia had offered, and I think I talked about this when it happened, but Russia had offered a off-ramp, and the U.S. told Zelensky to turn it down. So they had an offer of a peace agreement on the table, and the representative for the U.S. just recently admitted that the U.S. turned it down. Anyway, we are in such a mess. Total mess. All right. So today, Friday the 13th, is... Sorry, I had to take a drink. Is the launch of the first ever in theaters only movie called Am I Racist, being put out by the Daily Wire. I know some of you may not like Ben Shapiro. You may not be interested in him, or you may not like Michael Knowles, or even Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is the one who stars in this whole thing. But here, let me go ahead and show you the trailer. Let's see if I can get this to come up. Oh, too big. All right. I didn't think that was going to work. Let me go ahead and show you the trailer, and maybe you'll get an idea of what the movie is about.
Let's be clear what's happening in this country. It's Nazism. Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up in the 90s, I never thought much about race. Sure, you noticed, but never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me.
Being a white, straight, cisgender man is the top of the pile.
I'm on the top of the pile. That's me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
Can you please leave?
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover. If I want to be an ally, I need to look like one.
What is racism?
Martin Luther King said not to judge people by the...
Martin Luther King said a lot of stuff.
Is America inherently racist?
What the hell is that?
The word inherent is challenging there. America is racist to its bones. All of the...
So inherently.
Yeah.
The entire system has to burn. And I'm not going to even use save this country. This country is not worth saving. This country is a piece of shit.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
They gon' say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. Where are you guys in your anti-racist journeys? So I'll look around the room and point to who we believe is the most racist person in the room. We want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument. Would you mind signing it? You will? What do you think about this issue of heteronormativity and how it intersects with the broader structures of racism in society?
They gon' say I'm racist.
What's up with white people? What are you doing to decenter your whiteness?
Who's making it the center? Why are they doing that?
And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. Listen more for you in this field. White.
Folks.
White.
Trash.
White supremacy.
White woman.
White boy.
White.
Entitlement.
White.
Centering.
White.
Silence.
Is there a black person around here?
So there's a black person right here. Does he not exist?
They gon' say I'm racist, but they call everybody racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. And what's your name?
I'm Matt.
Matt. Hi, Matt.
Nice to meet you.
I just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
In theaters September 13th.
Call everybody
It's rated
racist.
PG-13.
Okay, so here's the thing. So first of all, this is a bit of a comedy, but the thing about it is that I don't know if anybody recognized Robin DiAngelo. Robin DiAngelo wrote a book called White Fragility, and it is along the lines of the Ibram X. Kendi book, you know, about anti-racism, which is, you know, you got to be, anyway, the whole point of the movie is to go where these people seem to be, have conversations with them in the same kind of vein that he did with What is a Woman? And What is a Woman was a book that came, or was a movie that came out that Daily Wire produced and put it on their streaming service. And the essentially kind of made fun of the idea of these people not being able to define what a woman is. And Am I Racist is kind of in the same vein as that. Now, the thing about it is these people that are seen in the movie, okay, in particular, this lady that you see on this first one, they didn't realize what they were in for. Let's just say that Matt Walsh and his production team wasn't exactly upfront about what was going on. And so they're a little pissed about this now that it's coming out. So this particular clip, I just want to show you this particular clip because this is literally how stupid these people sound, okay? So this clip has to deal with this woman and talking to Matt about the white supremacist society and how it comes back to racism. Now, she is reportedly a self-proclaimed, self-styled anti-racist scholar, practitioner, and facilitator. Okay. So here she is. She's talking about, or Matt is talking about his daughter who wants to dress up like Moana. And for those that don't know, Moana is one of the quote unquote Disney princesses. It's a based off of a Hawaiian, mythology and so on and so forth. And so, give me just a second. There we go. So anyway, here she is trying to, talk about this, and, we'll have to see. So
my daughter's 4 years old. I am an anti-racist educator, quote unquote. She's still watching Disney movies and she is choosing a white princess over princesses of color.
Have you talked to her about that?
All the time.
My 3-year-old daughter is her favorite princess is Moana.
Love it.
It's a good sign.
Yeah.
But then I also thought, you know, there's a little bit of cultural appropriation here. She wants to be Moana for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we navigate that? Do I go and buy the Pacific Islander native attire for my white 3-year-old?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
But I guess what we might call the Moana problem here is what, on one hand, there's cultural appropriation. On the other hand, there's gravitating towards white characters.
Right.
So it's almost like no matter which way you go, you end up back in racism.
We think every space belongs to us because we live in a white supremacist society.
Is America an inherently racist country?
I think the word inherent is challenging there. If we say...
Fundamentally,
yes. America is racist to its bones. All of the...
So inherently.
Yeah.
Do you see how these people... God. Do you see how these people think? They automatically believe that America by itself is a racist country. And they want to take their children. I'm sorry, I'm just going to throw this out here, but now you can kind of see why the number of mental illness in the leftist community has been increasing. This whole idea that, so I prescribe to the Morgan Freeman idea with racism. Stop talking about it. Stop talking about race. Just leave it alone. Who cares if a person's skin color is different? Why make it that big of a deal? Well, that's exactly what's going on. Well, it turns out that after this movie was announced and started coming out, that a lot of the people that showed up in the movie, they don't care for it. And this particular Dr. Katie Slater suggests that the film itself is problematic and racist. And she says that if this piece of shit film comes out on Friday, and if you're wondering why I've been off the radar, it's because I have an inbox full of angry white men who are incensed that I don't let my daughter dress as Moana for Halloween. Well, no shit. These people don't realize they're the ones making it a bigger issue than what it actually has to be. Now, all of that being said, believe me, if you can go and grab actual racism and acts of racism, I am fully on board to help you combat that. Completely. But to sit here and to look at your child and go, no, sweetie. No, you can't. You cannot be something else on Halloween, for God's sakes, when you're supposed to be able to be creative and dress up as something that you're not. For an example, a devil, a demon, the headless horseman, just all kinds of different things. No. You can't do it because your skin is white and that other person's skin is black or whatever. Or no. You have to dress up as another color of skin. You can't just be white. It's like, who the hell cares? Who the hell cares? Let the kids do it. And you wonder why these kids are growing up weird. Okay? This is just nuts. Well, Robin DiAngelo, as I pointed out, she got pissed as well because there is a segment, a part of this, and I'm kind of doing a little spoiler alert here. But there's a position here, and you can see in this image where they talk about this. So here's the three of them. Sorry, I'm going to try and center that a little better. There we go. That's a little better. So there's the three of them. You've got Matt Walsh on what would be your left viewing it. You've got his producer in the middle, and then you've got Robin DiAngelo on the right. And the thing about it is that they kind of set Robin DiAngelo up dealing with reparations. Now, the interesting thing about it, New York City, I think, has passed a reparations bill. But anyway, the point here is that Robin DiAngelo was kind of sort of set up. And there's a particular scene where Matt takes money out of his wallet and hands it over to his producer because his producer is black. And he says, or identifies as black, however you want to do it, and then basically challenges Ramen D'Angelo to give money, and all she gives him is like $30. I think that's all that she had in her pocket, but or in her wallet at the time. But they convinced her to, because of this, to go ahead and hand him money. And again, it's a satirical look at what our society has done in terms of this whole idea of race and racism. That because you happen to be white or because you happen to be black, you are automatically either the oppressor or the oppressed, depending upon which way you're looking at it. And it's like, come on, people. I mean, this is the whole thing that is the purpose of this movie, is to basically call this kind of activity that the left is pushing out. So anyway, she put a note on her website that she talks about the sequence of events that ended with her taking $30 out of her purse to pay reparations to a black producer on the set was unsettling. And that she figured out that she had been played before the trailer was released in July. Now, she also made a comment, too, that she said, you know, it looked a little funny that he looked like he had a wig on his head, indicating Matt Walsh. And she felt like this just something was not right here. But she went ahead and did the interview. And as you saw in the trailer, she said, well, you know, we kind of have to be careful who we're talking to. You know, I want to know what your name is. What's your name? Matt. Well, she claims that Matt wasn't his name. That is actually his name. His name is Matt Walsh. But anyway, so this film comes out. It's coming out in theaters. You can get tickets at miracist.com. And you can go and check it out if you want. I'm not necessarily advocating it. I probably won't even go see it because I don't go to movie theaters that much. But yeah, they went ahead and they were so embarrassed by this film coming out too, by the way, that Ramen D'Angelo and a couple others went ahead and deleted all of their social media accounts, their X accounts and etc. So yeah. That's what we have to do, people. We have to shine the light on the lies and the outrageousness of the left. We have to shine the light on it because of the fact that if we don't, then it's going to be pervasive throughout our society. Now, already we are behind the power curve because we've already let this kind of thing infiltrate our lives already. But the fact is that we're starting to gain some ground back again. And by the way, there are reports that from today that some theaters have been, let's say, been less than inviting to let people in on this. So we'll just have to see what happens. Pay attention to this movie, folks, and what happens, how long it runs in the theaters and things of that nature. Even go see it. I mean, I would say support the Daily Wire because the Daily Wire is trying to stand up. They're the ones that initiated the whole OSHA vaccine. They were one of the ones that initiated the whole OSHA vaccine mandate lawsuit that won at the Supreme Court level in court back in the COVID days. So I say support them. They're doing some pretty good work over there. All right, folks, that is it for me tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, the free speech alternative to YouTube, and make sure that you get yourself an account if you haven't already. And once you have that account and sign in, head on over to find the American Perspective channel and make absolutely certain you hit that follow button so you can tell and know whenever I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit all of those likes, thumbs up buttons, etc. throughout all of my outlets. That helps raise the awareness on this video, on these videos, all of the videos that I do. We will see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow's Saturday, so that means 1 hour later, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the American Perspective channel. Have a rest of your evening. We'll see you tomorrow, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.